Hi, everybody. This is Agnes from No Sediment, and welcome to my No Sediment Wine Podcast. Today we are in Barbaresco, Italy, and my guest is Gaia Gaja, fifth generation of the Gaja Family Winery and owner of Gaia Winery together with her siblings Rosanna and Giovanni.
Hi, Agnes.
Hi.
Hi,
Was
everyone.
it correct?
Yes, correct.
Nice. So, majority of people who are invested in wine will know, at least maybe heard about Gaia name. But could you please maybe tell us where we are and maybe a little bit about the Gaia Winery?
Sure. So we are in the village of Barbaresco. We are in the region of Langhe in Piemonte, in the historic winery of my family. That is a family of farmers that in 1859 started to not just produce grapes, but decided to start to produce wine as well. And so we became a winery making wine in 1859. Started with my great-great-grandfather Giovanni. Then his son Angelo took over. Then my grandfather Giovanni. Then my father Angelo. And now myself, my sister, and Giovanni, my brother.
Okay.
So we are 5 generations. In 5 generations, we have been able of buying some beautiful vineyards. That has been the scope and the goal of every generation. Most of the vineyards that we own and we farm are in the Barbaresco area, which means Barbaresco village and Treviso. These are the 2 villages where we own vineyards. And we also have vineyards in the Barolo area, which is just 20 minutes far away from here, in Serralunga and in La Morra.
La Morra, okay. And could you also maybe tell us more about yourself? What are your responsibilities at Gaia, and how did you get involved? Was it set for you from the beginning, or was it your free will?
Allora, I grew up in this tiny village that is the village of Barbaresco, which is a village of 600 people. All my friends, they come from families making wine or from families delivering grape to the cooperative of Barbaresco. So everyone has a family involved with wine. So you grow up listening to your parents and grandparents constantly talking about some disease, some changement in climate, and blah, 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 blah. And my mom is also from Barbaresco. And so having my grandparents, my parents, seeing them so involved, for the love that I have for my family, I said, I will bring forward their project. I don't want the project to die when they will die. I want to bring forward their dreams. And that has been the hook, the love that I have for my family. And then I started to work in 2004, and very quickly I completely fell in love with the world of wine. Because it's it's beautiful. You deal with nature, which is magic. You deal with the winery, and so with tasting with your own body and having your own perception and ideas on the things you like. Then there is the social aspect that is gorgeous. The people that you can meet, the friendship that are born thanks to wine. So it's really beautiful. And also my sister, that is 2 years younger than me, she decided to work, and my brother started in 2018, and we are all 3 very committed. So it's, as our work is vineyard, winery, market, it was pretty obvious to think that we could divide like that the responsibilities. But in reality, first, we like so much what we do that we don't want to be left aside in every direction. And on the other side, I think that to take a decision, you need to have an overall an understanding. And so we are, all 3 of us, involved in everything. We follow certain projects in viticulture. My brother has been following, for example, 6 years of redoing of muscle selection. I've been following experiments with a beekeeper, and I've been quite involved in the grassing and the management of the cover crops. My sister, overall, she really managed the whole team. And then we are involved in winemaking, because every week we sit down, we taste. And so despite we are not hands-on in the cellar, we are strategically behind all the decisions that are taken inside the winery. And then we travel, myself and my brother, we travel abroad. My sister travels in Italy. So we keep ourselves always updated. Transparency is super important. So we are always aware of everything, so that when it's time to take a decision, it's very easy to take it. It's easy. We agree at the end.
Okay.
So there is not a proper role, but like my father always took care of everything. So we are trying to do the same.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about the woman in wine, because as I told you before, I really wanted to have finally a woman on my podcast. Up until now, they're all been men, really good, great people, but still men. So I wanted to kind of talk about that. So do you feel, or did you feel at any moment when you were entering the wine world that you were entering also the world of men? Was it, did you feel it?
Allora, I never did. I never felt it, but I am in a privileged position. So I totally understand that probably for a woman entering in the world of wine, it means going to work for a winery of someone and starting from zero and having maybe people above her that are men. But my situation has never been really a weak position, because I am part of a family that owns a winery that is renowned. And so it's already a good start. And so it's my winery. I never. So no, I never had problems.
Very well-known winery and respected winery.
Exactly. So it's already a good start.
Yes. Okay. But in your opinion, do you think we should, or in your opinion, what should be done to have more women involved in the wine industry?
Allora, I must say that I have a different point of view, because I think that there are so many women involved in the world.
Okay, great.
So many. Allora, if you're talking about this region, for example, but Italy in general, not that is considered a very machist country, but to start with, wine has always been made by families of farmers. Family business is a big type of business in Italy. And so it's unfair and wrong to say women were not involved, because the wife, the sister, have always been involved with their husband or with their father in managing the family business. Everyone was working. Simply today, the women they start to run also their companies. In this area, I can name so many women in top position, like Bruna Giacosa from Bruno Giacosa. It's Bruna. It's a woman that is bringing forward the winery. Roberta Ceretto from Ceretto. Maria Teresa Mascarello from Mascarello. Elena Mascarello from Giuseppe Mascarello. Silvia Altare from Altare. Enrica and Elisa Scavino from Scavino. Barbara Sandrone from Sandrone. Luisa Rocca from Bruno Rocca, Paola Daniela from Albino Rocca, and I'm sorry,
all great wineries.
Yes, and in Tuscany, Sassicaia is with Priscilla, the three sisters Antinori for Antinori. So I'm talking about names that everybody knows. Maria Elisa Allegrini from Amarone. So if I'm talking about top renowned wineries. Many times there is a woman.
Oh, I almost felt like, oh wow, like, like, oh, we are so huge, because the names that you just mentioned, they're all big and really well respected in the wine world. Amazing.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Without mentioning in France, La Louis-le-Roi.
Yeah. Icam, I think as well. I think they also had or still have
Saskia Lafitte de Rothschild. So I see a lot of women, and I see it in wine. I see in running a winery or in being a winemaker. I see it in sommelier. I see it. I just came back in September. I went to China after 3 years not being in China. I went, and what's the big news in China? Women. Powerful women buying, entertaining, enjoying wine. Around the tables, women. And so, and there are so many women entering in the consumption of wine that the consumption of champagne and white wine is now rising in China because of women. Wow. So I really see a lot of women in the wine world.
That's very nice. I like to hear that.
Yeah.
But okay, so we are safe there. So then maybe we can talk about Gaia Winery, which I, for example, have always seen as a visionary or maybe slightly rebellious. You started to invest in land when everybody were just growing their grapes and selling. You planted Cabernet Sauvignon, or your father. This is a very famous story. And then you apparently also have ditched some of the prestigious labels in order to kind of blend in some other grapes. So how important, in your opinion, so maybe are all these developments and maybe being slightly rebellious and going forward with the wine style and your own idea versus like sticking into the DOCG appellation and ruling?
Allora, my father is now 83 years old and still very involved. Come to work every day at 8 o'clock, works all day, continue to be a big inspiration. The thing that he tells us the most, the thing that he keeps repeating is do things in a different way, think different. And this has been very important for him all over his life, and I absolutely understand it is important for us as well, because if you do what everyone is doing, if you do something that is mainstream, even high-end mainstream, but if you don't do something that brings some added value, I think that you end up being like everyone else. So it's risky, but can also be a pioneering attitude of bringing some new ideas that then little by little maybe they can just a tiny bit they can change the region in a good way. So it's not easy to try to think different. We try to because it's also fun. My father is someone that if he understands that you are expecting something from him, he's not going to do it. This happens in private life and it happens in business. If someone gives him a position and he has to keep that position, this is what we expect from you, of course he's going to be a rebel. And so was just the perfect personality, for example, to change the perception of what Barbaresco was, no? Because Barbaresco had to be the little brother. He couldn't accept that.
Yes.
And so he has tried everything he could to show that Barbaresco is not the little brother and that there is a value in being less tannic, less austere, less powerful. And so it was a perfect project for him. And in the same way, I think that he with his different attitude and ambition and many experimentation, he became in part an inspiration for the other producers and helped the area to wake up. It was like a sleeping beauty, an absolute beauty, but sleeping. And today, Laga is in a completely, Barolo and Barbaresco are in a completely different position respect to the past. Why? Because, for example, this is an area where there has been a strong questioning of tradition. It doesn't come to my mind in other areas where tradition has been questioned so harshly. And this is a traditional region. And so, especially in the 80s and 90s, this questioning of tradition created big friction between producers. Sometimes these frictions have been even marked too much and pushed by the press. And so you had very different styles in the making of the wine. Today, I think that you don't find very marked differences in the winemaking of producer. With few exceptions, everyone got it, what's the best of tradition, and understood how to improve it with some modern touch. And the wines today, for me, are better than ever. No? So if I can add one more thing.
Sure.
So I would say that top quality is not what we have to aim to, but is where we have to start from, and then to be really, there are great wines made all over the world thanks to more knowledge, better consumers, more technology. So good quality, top quality is coming from all over the world. So to make something that is truly authentic and that is distinct and different, the goal is to try to have a wine that speaks about where it's coming from. So how to transfer the terroir identity into a wine. That's the key to make something that is really unique. I think that the area of Barolo and Barbaresco is an area where to make terroir-driven wines, there is more of a potential. The wines here, they have the potential for being terroir-driven, strongly terroir-driven. One, because it's a region that you come, you see how the landscape is so dramatic. No? So you can plant on every slope of the hill, southeast, west, top, middle, and on a valley that is very narrow, that is wide, closer to the river, more far away, sandier soil, more compact clay. So all these things that you see when you come here, you find them into the glass. There are very different morphology areas. Then second, not only we have that, which you can find also in other areas around the world, but on top of that we have a variety Nebbiolo that is super terroir driven. I say that Nebbiolo is a variety that talks like it is, no?
Yes.
And is some varieties they get dominate. They can dominate terroir. Some other are dominated. Nebbiolo is dominated by terroir. So naturally, it really changes a lot if it's from Barolo or Barbaresco, from Serralunga, from La Morra, from the vineyard of Costa Russe or the vineyard of Sori San Lorenzo. You can see those differences. It's a variety that has an identity that is very bonded with this terroir. Also because of Nebbiolo, there are only 7,000 hectares planted in the world. 5,400 are planted in Piemonte. Only 350 hectares of Nebbiolo are planted outside from Europe. So the identity of this variety is very connected with here. And third aspect is a variety that has been growing on these hills for 800 years. So it reproduced itself in hundreds and hundreds of different biotypes, which they represent very much the typicity of the variety. So this is a great asset that the area has to make terroir-driven wines. And then for last, it's an area where there is an historic farming culture. There is a common base of knowledge. So the people here always had the concept of terroir. They always planted a Nebbiolo in certain places and not others. They always knew that the characteristic of Nebbiolo from Brunate are different from the one of Cannubi. So there is that culture that is shaping a little bit all the people. Then you can have farmers, you can have producers that they have their own favor. They prefer to make wines that are more ripe or more light in structure or more acidic. But that's not hiding the terroir. Here there is a strong terroir identity. So we're also very lucky to come from a region where there is that terroir. And today, that terroir identity comes out louder than ever, because I think that you rarely find wines that have unbearable volatile acidity, breath, old oak, faults, because for me, breath or all these added things are an interference with the expression of terroir. You don't find that. We are over that. Natural wines brought them back, but we don't have natural wines in Barolo and Barbaresco. And you don't find any more wines that are overloaded with oak, no crazy ideas of aging the wine. 200% new oak are gone. So the wines today, they have, I say, the best of tradition, meaning that are transparent, they have tension, and they have not too much oak, and the best of modernity, which is clarity, cleanness, fruit expression. So that this terroir is coming louder from everyone.
Okay. This is such a beautiful...
See, I want to do the whole speech because I think it's important to understand where Barolo and Barbaresco are today. Because when I travel, sometimes I travel a lot and I meet people that they tell me, Barolo, Barbaresco, very harsh wine, very high tannins. These are wines that you buy and then you have to store for 10 years. Don't open it before 10 years. And then when you open the bottle, decant it the day before.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I don't think, and on the same in the same way, sometimes I meet other people. They tell me, my favorite wines are Amarone and Barolo. I say, wow, for me they have nothing in common, Nebbiolo and Amarone. But today the wines are different. In part is the style that are more proper. They're the best ever for me. On the other side, I have to put into the picture also the climate change, which is changing a little bit the terroir and is changing a little bit the variety as well. So the Nebbiolo, also because of climate change today, is different from the past, with the good and the bad. For sure, for a late ripening variety like Nebbiolo, ripening fully, having warm summer and fall means that the Nebbiolo fully ripes. And that's why the Nebbiolo of today has riper, softer tannins, a bit of a lower acidity, more fruit expression. So these are three things that make Nebbiolo much more harmonious from an early age and more enjoyable. And so Nebbiolo is changing, the climate is changing, the winemaking style is changing as well, because it's important to adapt. Today, in moments of big changes, only who adapts. And there are a lot of things that we have to learn and a lot of experimentation that I think has to be involved. We can go forward and make sure that this area continue to be greater and greater.
Okay, because you jumped to the climate change, so I will also maybe ask you a few questions a little bit later, but I want to focus now on that. So how have your viticulture changed now in your vineyards, or maybe how have you adapted to the climate change in your vineyards? You mentioned.
Yes, so the first year where really everybody started to feel that the climate was changing was 1997. That was the very first warm year, followed then by a beautiful 98, 99, a very warm 2000, beautiful 2001. So in this area never had a role of great vintages. So that already we felt that there was something unusual. And from 97, we started to get used more and more to hot vintages in 97, 2000, 2003, 2005, 2009, 2012, and on and on. So at the beginning, we started to make some adaptation, like the obvious one. Nebbiolo, it's a variety that takes forever to ripe, but when you have warm vintages, ripes faster. So if in the past the habit was to keep a very high canopy, to leave a lot of leaves to help Nebbiolo to ripe, first thing we did, put down the canopy. We need less leaves. Nebbiolo ripes better because there are more bright days. Second thing, used always to leaf, keep everything covered. These were the first things. Then we started to understand that, you know how we say the best wines come from vines that are struggling. So there was very little fertilization done in the vineyards all over the 80s and 90s, when with hotter and drier vintages, the soil becomes hotter and becomes drier. And so the organic matter dies. It mineralizes the nutriment that are in the soil. So little by little, we understood more and more how important it is to keep the soils alive. And so first we started to create our own composting, which is made by manure of cow and then elaborated by worms. After 1.5 years, the manure becomes compost, is ready, and is full of organic matter because it has been digested by worms, has been digested 3 times by a cow. So it's something that doesn't give too much nitrogen and energy, but feeds the soil. So climate change made us understand that if we want to go through drought, months and months of drought, and I have to say that here in in the Langhe region, the land of truffles, the land of fog, of humidity, we went through a very dry 2021, continued all over the winter and all over the vintage 2022. And then we had an extremely dry winter now, 2023, up to April. So if you want the soil to remain alive into these long drought moments, it has to be a soil that is full of organic matter. The more roots, the more microorganisms are living into the soil, the more you have a soil that is alive, flexible, that is holding water because there is organic matter inside. And so it's important in moment of drought, but also when you have maybe water bombs, water that is not coming down anymore like fog, but is coming 200 millimeter in a rainfall, you can have big erosion on these hills. But if you have a soil that has organic matter, holds. So we understood more and more how important it is to grow the organic matter and keeps the soil alive, because soils are important. If they are alive, they can better bond with the vines. And so if you want to continue to make great wines, the key is to have grapes that are perfectly ripe from a phenolic and a technical point of view. There has to be a nice balance between the technologic and phenolic ripeness. And if you want to achieve that, the vines, they have to work well. The roots, they have always to absorb the nutriments, and so you need to have a soil alive. So we really focused a lot in boosting the organic matter into the soil, keep soil full of oxygen, and we did that little by little with seeding of different types of grass by rotation. Especially in the area of Barolo, we achieved a very good balance. So it's already a couple of years that we are not seeding anything anymore, because the soils, they have a nice natural mix of a cover crop, thanks to the work we did of bringing high the level of softness and oxygen into the soil. So we are not touching those grassing. In the area of Barbaresco, where the soil is a little bit more sandy and therefore can dry faster in moments of drought, there in some areas we are still helping the soils to create enough organic matter to welcome a natural grassing. So, but working on the grass has been very important. And then a lot of work on the muscle selection. We have our vineyards, the average age of our vineyards is 55 years old. So we have vineyards that are 60, 70, 80s. We don't go beyond that, but we have some very old vineyards. The value of the old vineyards is that they are all muscle selection. That's the value. That you walk them and you can see that every vine is different. And so they're very interesting. In the 80s, in the late 80s, the first clonal selection of Nebbiolo became available. And this clonal selection seemed to be very good quality, able of making very good quality and good consistency. And so we, every time we had to replant some vineyards, we planted a clonal selection. Despite they continue to produce amazing quality, still, you know that the clones the plants of Nebbiolo that were selected in the 80s, that were considered the best plants, were those vines able of ripening a little bit earlier and give you a little bit more of a fullness of color, give you more fruit expression, maybe achieving a little bit alcohol more, because we come from an area where the wines, they never had fruit expression. They always, was very difficult. My father told me 50s, 60s, 70s, the grapes were almost never fully ripe. Okay, so that was a big change. Those vineyards today, I must say that are a little bit more challenging to be managed, because you have to be very careful, because they ripe a bit earlier and they can give you half a degree more in alcohol. So, and not just that, but we decided 15 years ago to go back to replanting with muscle selection. So we started again to do all our muscle selection. And then in the last 6 years, we did it with the help of a geneticist. And from him, we really learned a lot. And we just finished, last year, we finished our last master selection. We identified 288 different Nebbiolo vines that they come from 6 of our oldest vineyards. And these are the 288 vines of Nebbiolo that, in our opinion, are the most resilient. Because with climate change, that is also the word that is important to consider, are the vines that are able to, they have been able of adapting better to the territory. They don't get sick. In 6 years, they never show symptoms of mildew and powdery mildew. It's not that they are resistant, but they are. It's very good if in 6 years they don't get attacked. They don't show sign of esca, of flavescenza dorata, of black wood. They don't. We looked at so many different parameters, and those are the most resilient vines. And we already replanted some vineyards with those. We will continue to the selection of the selection. But I think that's very important because, again, because the typicity of the Nebbiolo lies there, and because to face climate change is important also to talk about the genetic, about the vines that are more adapted. You know, if I cut a piece of wood, if I cut a branch from a vine that is 80 years old, and that vine was generated from a mother that was there 8 years before, that was generated from another vine that was there 8 years before her, the capacity of understanding the climate and how to live in this air, in this region, is incredible. So, yeah.
Yes. I think I remember the last time when I met you, you also told that you are also looking into wines that not only do not get sick, but recover.
See,
and I thought that was really interesting way of looking at it.
So in this selection we did, 288 vines never showed any symptom of anything. So they passed the test and we are replanting those. And then we still have under investigation many plants that showed 1 or 2 symptoms, but that over time they are showing that the symptoms is reducing. Mm-hmm. So a plant that is sick with esca, but that we see, we don't, usually in the past, if a plant had esca, we were chopping the plant, very scared that the sickness could be spread to the others. Now we simply drop the fruit. We don't make wine from that plant because the grapes, they don't physiologically ripe perfectly well from a vine that is sick. But they are all marked, and we know which one are doing progresses and which are not. Mm-hmm. And so eventually we think that they can be included into the selection because a plant that knows how to recover, it's a jewel. It's going to be fantastic for... It's also very nice, the idea for me actually to think that inside the community of Nebbiolo there is some weak guy, but that weak guy actually can be so helpful in the future because maybe if he can recover, he's going to become stronger than anyone else.
Yeah, I think that's, I specifically remember that and I really like that.
Yeah. And sorry, you know that we also planted, you said Cabernet, we planted the Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc. These are the 3 international varieties that we planted here on the region. We have a vineyard of Sauvignon Blanc that was planted in 1988 that makes a beautiful, beautiful quality, but has severe problems with flavescenza dorata and esca. So in that vineyard, and those were clonal selection, because maybe polyclonal, but it's not a master selection. But what we did, we identified all the vines that had no symptom of esca or flavescenza dorata, and we replant those. So it's already a reverse selection.
I find it very interesting, like how people and how wineries are tackling the climate change to kind of retain the finesse and retain the...
See, but again, it's very important to change the viticulture. Like if you are on a south or west slope and you continue to work like you always did in the past, in a hot vintage, you make something that is too round, too alcoholic, to reflect finesse, to have a capacity of expressing really its terroir. So it's all a reconsideration of many aspects, the time of the pruning, the management of the canopy, the quantity of plants per hectare, no, and the quantity of grape per plant, all has to be reconsidered.
The density, are you looking into increasing it or decreasing it? Is that something?
Like the oldest vineyard we have are 4,200, 4,500 plants per hectare. In the 70s, my father, every time he replanted with the rows going vertically. Because it's a way, it's allowing you to plant the rows more close to one to the other. So we went up with the density. And so today, the average density is 5,700 plants per hectare. We have a couple of vineyards that are 6,000. We have one vineyard that is 8,000, but it's not the 8,000 vineyard is not Nebbiolo, sorry, is a vineyard of Chardonnay. I think it's the right amount because it's not this a moment to do things extreme. I think you pay a high price if you go too extreme in density.
Okay.
But still, to make quality, you need...
But how increasing the density helps for vineyard health and the expressing the terroir better?
Simply because reduce the production per plant and force the plant to go deeper with its root.
So there's more...
So to be less influenced by the weather, because the roots, they tend to go deeper down. But you have to be careful, because if you go in direction of density and also more dense production, smaller and more dense, there is already a concentrator into the sky that makes density.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't really believe in too much high density of plants per hectare. But another topic that people are discussing here is the rootstock. So historically, 420A is the best marriage for Nebbiolo. It's a rootstock that go amazingly well with Nebbiolo. But today, if we are on the top of a hill facing south in a place where there is more erosion, the soil is drier, we look for Paulsen. We try other kind of rootstock that is able of really going deeper and helping the vines.
Okay. So you are also experimenting with rootstocks now?
Yes.
That's very
interesting. And also a second step we took this year was in also bringing forward the muscle selection of the rootstock. Because if we have vines that are 8 years old, it's not just the Nebbiolo vine that learned something, but also the rootstock that has been there for 8 years. So when a branch grows very close to the soil, and you know that it's from the rootstock, we protect it, we let it grow, and then we cut it.
People
and we
just cut it away.
We did as well in the past. Yeah. Now we use it to create a base of baby rootstock.
That's so interesting. Wow, yeah. Very unique. Are there other issues you're facing right now in the viticulture, or besides the climate change?
I think that managing the drought and the water bombs, it's the biggest challenge. The distribution of the waters. I don't see a lot of other issues. I think that, again, obviously people are very skilled here. There is a crowd of farmers that is very ambitious and knows how to. And we all know that the most valuable thing we have is the land. And so it seems that in the area people are very advanced in protecting their land, because I can see the quality in the region that actually keeps growing. In part thanks to climate change, and in part it seems that all the challenges that the global warming is bringing, the people anyway, they are managing it pretty well. So I think that the quality that is produced today is higher than ever, and so no, I don't see challenges in.
That's good.
Yes, no, I'm pretty happy. 90% of what we produce is Nebbiolo, but 40 years ago we also started to to work with Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. So we planted the first Chardonnay in 1979 and became Gaia Gaja. And then we planted the first Sauvignon Blanc in 1983 and became Alteni di Brassica. And I am really, really attached to these two wines, regardless that they are not Nebbiolo, because they impress me on how they can evolve, how they can age well and bring complexity. So and how they can transfer our terroir. So in making our Chardonnay, the inspiration was definitely Burgundy. We knew nothing on how to make a white wine. We never made in 4 generations a white wine. So when my father had the idea of planting Chardonnay, they traveled to Burgundy many times and became an inspiration. But our Chardonnay develops perfumes, taste that they connect me with this region, and that's why I'm very proud of that wine. There is a earthiness, there is often I find some rooty perfumes, and also the Sauvignon Blanc. It's a variety that fits very well the region. So these two varieties, again, if you want to make a great wine, they have to ripe perfectly well, and they need to keep a good acidity, a good malic acid. The issue with these early ripening varieties is heat, high heat, because the heat is burning, is destroying that acidity. So if we look at this vintage, 2023, summer, in the past, the summer was already ending in August. By mid of August, the temperature was starting to go down. This year, we had a very hot August, and then September, 30 degrees, October, 30 degrees. So we think, so for example, we started to look around, and we bought not a vineyard, we bought a piece of land that was covered in hazelnuts outside from Barbaresco, because you know that the area of Barolo and Barbaresco are very small inside Langa. There is an area of Langa that is 6 times bigger than Barolo and Barbaresco. That is an area that starts at the borders, at the southern border of Barolo and Barbaresco, and continue in direction of Liguria, going south. This area of Langa, which is called Alta Langa, it's an area that goes from 500 to 890 meters of altitude. That's going to be for sure and more an interesting area for the Langa region, because other regions in the world don't have the higher altitude. We do. So not for Nebbiolo, not expanding the production of Barolo and Barbaresco, but I see a future for Gaia Gaja and Alteni di Brassica at 650 meters of altitude. So in 2015, we started to plant Chardonnay Sauvignon Blanc. At the moment, Gaia Gaja continued to be made with the 2 vineyards, the historic vineyard in Treviso and Serralunga. But for Alteni di Brassica, we already included, now there is a 20% of Sauvignon Blanc coming from Alta Langa. Meanwhile, we pull out that vineyard that we had in Serralunga that had some problems, unfortunately, with the Esca and Placenza Dorata. So I think the project is not fully clear. What is clear is that we have to move higher in altitude for our white wines. So that's the step we did. Then how to shape the production in Alta Langa, this we will understand little by little, is a work in progress. But having higher altitude vineyards, especially for white grapes, is important. And Langa gives you that.
That would be my question. What are the upcoming projects for Gaia? And Alta Langa, I was thinking.
So
is there something else you can share with us?
We have a big project higher in altitude. So in 2015, we bought a beautiful, was a great opportunity. We bought it just outside from the area of Barbaresco. It's really 20 minutes drive from the village of Barbaresco, but to a way higher altitude, because Barbaresco is 270 meters of altitude. We bought at 650. It was a great opportunity because overall is a property of 30 hectares. And it's 30 hectares with all-in-ones, which is very unusual because you know how divided the properties are in here. But 30 hectares, close to home, to an altitude that we were looking for. One side overlooking the area of Barbaresco, one side overlooking on the other side, so in direction of Liguria, different types of soil. So that was a great opportunity. We planted Chardonnay Sauvignon Blanc because we have a lot of experience there and we want to continue. But we planted with different rootstock, very different in different sites. We use the baby vines that we generated from our historic vineyard. We bought some muscle selection. We bought polyclonal selection. We bought different. We planted different things, and I can see the future there with our Chardonnay Gaia, Rossi Bas, and Altini di Brassica. Meanwhile, we are trying to see also what the potential is with other varieties. So at 650 meters of altitude, we planted half an hectare of Timorasso, half an hectare of Pinot Bianco, half an hectare of Incrocio Manzoni, of Erba Luce, of Pinot Nero, of Nebbiolo. So we have 6 different experimentation going on. None of these 6 vineyards is producing yet. We have to wait next harvest or 2-3 years from now. And so it will require a bit of time. But we also built a facility up there. And so from this year, this historic cellar is no longer the cellar where the white grapes arrived. All the white grapes from Barolo, from Barbaresco, they were driven to Alta Langa. The new vineyard in Alta Langa, the one that we could harvest, they went to the new estate. And so now we are managing a winery for the whites and one winery for the red, which excites me because to have an entire team devoted to white, an entire winery where we can do all the micro-fermentation and experimentation we want, I think is going to help a lot the wines in the future.
Okay, I just have 2 questions left. One just came up to me. Is sparkling wine part of your DNA or no?
Is what?
Sparkling wine. Because Alta Langa currently is known with the sparkling wine production, and I'm just wondering, you said that you're investing and developing the white wine production, and I'm just wondering, is that something that...
I think that Alta Langa has a great potential for sparkling, and some of our colleagues are already making some very interesting sparkling wine. Why? 2 reasons. 1, there is the altitude. 2, there is a soil that is not that different from Barolo and Barbaresco. So I can see the potential of Alta Langa sparkling. But we personally don't have experience with sparkling. We have experience with white wines. So for the same reason, for the soil that is not different from here and the higher altitude, we see more a future for us with whites. So we are not thinking about producing sparkling wine. Moreover, and this everybody is going to say, boo, I don't drink a lot of sparkling wine. I gravitate naturally toward red or white. If someone is opening for me a wonderful bottle of sparkling, could be champagne or could be an Alta Langa or Franciacorta or Trento, because Italy, by the way, has a big tradition in sparkling. There are so many different regions where it's made. I drink it with pleasure, but I don't generally order. I love more still dry wines. That's my category.
Okay. And the last question, which I like to ask to all of my guests, is what is the one wine myth you would like to debunk?
The bad vintages.
Oh, great.
It's a myth that the bad vintages, all the wines are bad. I must say that I was doing a tasting a few days ago, and I was so impressed with Barbaresco 2018. That is considered light, not incredible vintage, too rainy, too cold. 2014, I love 14. When I find it on a wine list, I buy it. And again, it's considered very rainy and cold vintage. 2012, very misregarded. But even 2017, because everybody talked about 16, 17 was actually very hot and dry. The wines came out beautifully. In the 80s, I love 86. Everybody talked about 85, which is beautiful, is expected to be beautiful, but 86, no one expects beauty in 86. Is a fantastic vintage. 83, but you have no idea how it happened to me in the world 2-3 times that people told me, I felt in love with your Barbaresco 83, and I say, 83? 82, you mean? No, 83. It was considered a so-so vintage. 91, 93. I'm in love with the so-called weak vintages. I think that if you are working in the right place and if you choose the right producer, you can be amazed by bad vintages.
I agree. Yes. Well, thank you very much. We have a small present.
Oh,
yes.
What is this? I need it, by the way.
I don't know. I was thinking.
I need one.
Okay.
I was looking at a beautiful girl a few days ago with that hair and I said, I need that look.
Okay. So thank you very much. This is a small No Sediment. This is No Sediment logo. I don't know if you is that something that you wear maybe in the vineyards? I hope you will enjoy it.
That's gorgeous. Let me see.
Does it fit?
How's the look?
Very good. It suits you.
Thank you.
Thank you for spending your time with us. I know you're very busy.
Thank you.